Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Book Club. So we are still working on Dr. Bradley's book, The Handbook to Practical Disaster Preparedness for the Family. Lori, I can't see how many people are there, and can you? Are you the only one there right now? Do we need to wait a minute to see if anybody else comes on before we begin the discussion? It's always interesting to find out the verses that different denominations take as a prevalent doctrinal passage. And so I've always enjoyed finding out what those are and how they are. And so it's just you right now. Okay. Well, that's great. Enjoy talking with you. So I guess we both probably are. I'm gonna guess I'm a little bit older than you, but we're of the same generation. So a lot of eschatology was changed. Well, I guess actually started or exacerbated, accelerated. What do we want to call it? Hello, USMC 935. Gosh, I'm glad to see you. And yes, I am going to get together with you. I really want to discuss the what you're doing as far as homeschooling and everything else. What a great thing to have. Hello, Scott. Welcome. Lorraine, welcome. But I was just telling Lori that she and I want to get together with her and talk about eschatology, especially premillennial eschatology, which is this new thing called the rapture. And that really, it wasn't considered biblical theory until Hal Lindsey came out with his book in about 1970, 1971 called, what was the name of it? The Late Great Planet Earth. And that's kind of what started this entire thing now on the rapture that's been going on for the last 50 years. But anyhow, hello, everybody. And reminder, this is what we're working on. We're working on Dr. Arthur T. Bradley's book, The Handbook to Practical Disaster Preparedness for the Entire Family, 3rd edition. Dr. Bradley is the EMP expert for NASA. So he designs all the EMP shielding and everything else for everything that goes up in space and aircraft and stuff like that. Hi, Lorraine. Welcome. So I think the guy has a pretty good theoretical handle on everything that's going to be happening as far as disasters and how to prepare. I was in a discussion earlier today with Fernando Aguirre, Furfall, and he and I were talking, and I said, one of the things that I really like the most is I like Furfall's books. I like Begovich's books and Selko Begovich. There are a couple articles out by Venezuela Prepper. I like the been there, done that's more than I do the theoreticals. So people can tell me, hey, I was there. This is what I did. This is how it is. These are the things I had to do to survive. I always value those far, far more than any of these books by theorists that say this is what I think is going to happen. Because we can theorize all we want to, but gosh, there's 3 prolific writers out there right now who have been there, done that, and I take their writings to be far more seminal than what I do with the books like what we're reading here. Hello, Dragon Slayer. No, you're not late. Welcome. So what I'd like to do is, once again, we'll go through the summary. I have all kinds of fantastic props and study aids for the heating part of tonight's discussion. And not very many for the cooling. Of course, there wasn't very much in the cooling discussion in the book as well. Not that much on the electrical power as well. I guess I could show you my Jackery, but that wouldn't do you any good. So let's go ahead and start off with electrical power, and we'll do the summary, the chapter summary. And gosh, these glasses are dirty. 1 second. But we can focus on heating. I was telling Lori before we went live how convenient that we have a discussion on heating 2 days before a 1,200-year Arctic vortex, or once every 1,200 years. God, my hair, gosh, just can't do anything with it, I guess. Okay, so having backup power source can make handling a disaster much easier. I'm on page 167, the summary of page of the chapter. If any of you have read the book and you would like to come on live with me and help discuss that, please let me know. Just put it in the comments down here. I'll give you the link and you can come on live with me. Would certainly love to have you up here. Hello, Prepper Book Club. So having a backup power source can make handling a disaster much easier. My daughter called me all kinds of in a giddy. It was last week, not this weekend, but the weekend before, that there was a all-house generator, liquid natural gas generator that hooks up with your gas line, and it was from Generac, and $6,000 to get your whole house. And she says, Dad, they're listening to you. They're getting all kinds of generators and stuff here. As a matter of fact, she came by today in preparation for Thursday and picked up my 5 kW Honda generator. They have a small heater so that they can keep their family warm if necessary. So backup power sources, that can be a Generac whole house system. We have whole house solar here. I can tell you the advantages and disadvantages of that. Certainly, snow and ice covering the panels, you don't have very much electrical production. You don't have any production if it's overcast. Let me take a look at my production today real quick here. So today, we consumed 10.34 kilowatt hours and we produced 3.69. So not a single panel turned blue. That means that it was really overcast and we hardly had any sun production at all. Typically, I'm going to produce about 15 kilowatt hours per day. And I'm going to increase that to 22. So I just signed the contract for signed the agreement with the power company for the additional 8 panels that we'll have those installed probably the first week after Christmas. Then, of course, you have the alternative methods. You have 5 kW generators, 10 kW generators. I think most are probably going to be 5 kW. So I did have an Onan 5 kW, very, very quiet, ran on liquid natural gas or LPG, propane, and loved it, quiet, but gosh, it ran hot. And the plugs fouled and the filters fouled so often. The maintenance on it was just unbelievable. I got rid of it and got a Honda gas generator. And as long as you keep the fuel in it good to go, then you're good to go. One of the things that it talks about when it talks about generators here in the book is they say make sure you have stable for your fuel supply or Pri-G. I had on my Monday interviews a week ago yesterday, I had Toolman Tim from Canada, and he turned me on to Pri-G, which is also recommended here in the book. And that can not only preserve your fuel, but it can restore your fuel. So I think one jar of Pri-G treats like 157 gallons or something like that. We had snow and ice during Snowmageddon, which was February 2021. They're saying that it's not going to be as bad this time. The temperatures will be the same, but it's not going to be as bad because we won't have the snow and ice. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to prep like we're going to have loss of electrical power and loss of snow and ice, or loads of snow and ice. But we do have battery backup. And so the nice thing about Snowmageddon 1 was we got 4 hours of electricity a day. So the 4 hours we got were from midnight to 4 a.m., which was perfect because that charged my battery to 100% while we were asleep. And so I got up in the morning and we could use that before the sun and everything came up. So it was pretty good. I like that timing. As long as I get the power company providing the electricity while the sun is down, I'm a happy camper because that way I can restore my battery and use the actual direct access off the panels during the daytime if there's sun. Now, one of the things you have to realize is if you don't have battery backup and all you have is the solar system, when the grid goes down, you don't have electricity. So, those panels are not going to be providing electricity for you when the grid is down unless you have battery backup. And that's the only way you can do that. Uh, falling iguana alerts. I love that. Uh, that's fantastic, Lori. Then you can also get wind generated power. You can also get solar power. I have a Jackery, the little one. I think it's a 2 kW um, Jackery system that I can head it out in the backyard and had it all charged up and everything ready to go. I also have a small 1 kW solar powered refrigerator freezer. So I think we got that pretty much covered. I would hope that you would consider, how are you going to get power to your house? Now, one of the things you might consider is going and getting some dry ice the day before the event is scheduled to happen. Then you can use the dry ice to keep your frozen stuff frozen. Whatever you do not put your frozen stuff, which has to be kept at below 0, with your cool stuff that has to be kept below 40, and then use ice cubes to keep that all cool. As the ice melts, it produces water. You're going to have water in the bottom of your cooler. That water can get into your frozen meats, chicken, everything else, and then it's going to contaminate your foods, even your frozen foods. It'll mush up the cardboard for them and everything else. If you're going to try to keep coolers with something frozen to keep them below at 32 degrees, which is the freezing temperature of water, get yourself some bottles, this size water bottles, and fill them up with water. Freeze those bottles, and that way, when they melt, the water is contained inside the bottle, and you don't get any cross contamination from the water. Well, welcome, Gay. Thank you. And My Prepper Journey, welcome. My Prepper Journey is going to be just listening, which is great. Let me see. During last week, we didn't get any power for 3-4 days. Yes, and so there was a period there where some areas did not get any power at all for a couple of days, and that was because of the lines. And so I worked in the industry for a couple of years. I was HR director for a power co-op here in Texas, and so what happens is when ice accumulates on the lines, it adds extra weight, and there is a certain amount of sag built into the lines to absorb that weight. Then when it exceeds that, then it breaks the lines, or it can break a pole, either one. And when that happens, then you have the possibility of it arcing, and because you have both the neutral and the negative and the ground, and so you've got the phases and everything else on that power pole. When they connect with each other, then you have a short circuit, and that's what causes the transformers to blow. So, there's all kinds of problems that happen once you get ice and snow accumulation on the lines. Another interesting one is in the summer, you'll get a lot of dust, a lot of dirt that accumulates on the poles, especially in the conductors where you have the porcelain that keeps the contact, because that porcelain is a non-conductive material. So the wire goes through the porcelain from one pole to the next, okay? But if there's a lot of dust and sand that accumulates and gets into that area where it makes a contact between the non-conductive porcelain and the wood, and then you get a slight rain, it turns that sand or that dirt into a conductive water thing, and that's how you end up with pole top fires. So you can get the small solar systems, you can get the small wind generated system. If you have it hooked up to your house, make sure you have a dead man transfer switch, or else it's going to backfeed into your system, and you don't want that to happen. Power can either be direct current or alternating current. So what comes into your house is alternating current. It's 110. Actually, it's 220, and then they step it down to 110 via 2 wires, and but it is 60 hertz, and so that's alternating current. Now, most of your small things like computers, cell phones, anything that's run on a battery is going to be direct current. So you have to have an inverter to change from direct current to alternating current, and vice versa. And so usually you're going to have that inverter probably in your power plug. If you have something like my MacBook here, it's got the inverter is built into this little thing here. So what we're doing, and you can tell by the heat, the amount of heat that's generated, but this little thing is an inverter. So it's taking 110 alternating current, 60 hertz, and stepping it down to about 12 volts direct current. So, that's just kind of the way it goes. So I poured water in 12 kitty litter jugs for flushing the toilet and washing hands and dishes. We're going to drain our water pipes so they don't. Yes, absolutely. Good idea there, My Pepper Journey. Fantastic idea. We'll talk about some other things we can do here to protect your pipes and everything. Let me get to my other banner here because I think it's really, really important. If anybody wants to join, please let me know. We'd love to have you up here with me so everybody can see your gorgeous face. Navigating the Nonsense. Welcome. One of my favorite channels there. Yes. Now, unfortunately, with the fast creek, what happens is you've got that wheel. You're going to be using a wheel to generate it. So that wheel, as it turns, is going to be generating the power in an alternating current because it's a cyclical thing that goes on. It will not produce direct current. To the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I think that it's kind of like the alternator on your car. Maybe it does. Maybe you've got a darn good idea. I'll have to investigate that further. Maybe you have a darn good idea. Okay, so generators and inverters are used to provide AC. Determine your electrical needs in order to select the right size generator for you. So that means determining the amount of watt hours you're going to be consuming during the day. Some things consume a lot more than others. For example, a small heater, anything that generates heat is going to require an awful lot of electricity to power it. Coffee pots, microwaves, baking ovens, and things like that, they require an awful lot of power. So you might want to consider a separate power system for those small items that require and produce a. I changed my mind on that, Vacuum Slater. I will definitely take your word on that. I am not an expert in that area, so I gave myself a head scratcher on that and said, maybe he's right. So I'm going to definitely take your word on that, and I'll research it further. So now here's the problem, especially if you use a gas generator, is if you're in an apartment complex, you're going to have it out on the outside balcony, porch, or whatever. In a home, you're going to have it outdoors in the backyard, hopefully, so it's a little bit more secure. How do you get that electrical cord inside the house? So if you slam your door on that cord, there's a chance you could pinch those internal wires and cause an electrical fire, and you don't want to do that. So you're going to have to find a way of padding the door. So you're going to leave the door slightly ajar so you're not pinching that wire. And then you're going to pad the rest of it with styrofoam or blankets or towels or something so that the air is not coming in. You don't want cold air coming in while you're trying to heat the air that's on the inside already. So you're going to have to find a way of sealing that off. Limit fuel use by running your generator only a few hours each day and only when you need them. Try to get everything accomplished at the same time. I have the same theory with fires. So what I think is I will go outside and I'll start a fire with my Kelly kettle, boil some water, put that water inside my thermoses and things like that so I have hot water throughout the day. And at the same time, I want to use that to heat up, say, any bricks or rocks or anything I'm going to bring in a metal bucket and put those on the door to the stove or the oven, and that provides some residual heat as well. So, how can you get the most heat transfer from any small fire that you start into things that are going to keep your home warm or your body warm? And that's one of the things you have to plan is how do I use the electricity most effectively? How do I use flame heat most effectively? I wonder if they'd care in an emergency. They might come warm up at your place. Most, and for example, I checked with my insurance company. about storing my 5 kW generator here. I'm not allowed to store more than 10 gallons of gas in my home. I would have to build a storage facility out in the yard, but in the garage or on the back patio, I can't have more than 10 gallons of gas. If I do, then that negates my fire insurance for my home. So yeah, it's not just the local HOA or the local authorities where you rent from. It's also your insurance company. There are a lot of different things to take into consideration during a minor thing like what we have coming up day after tomorrow. And I'm calling it minor relative to shizzy hitting the fizzy, if you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, the next one says check with your insurance company and fire department to determine how much you're allowed to store. Then add fuel stabilizers. Now we talked about stable. We talked about Pri-G. Inverters convert battery power into AC, but they're not suited to powering equipment with high startup content. So you have to take a look at, because when you when you start something up, there's an initial draw that is just humongous. So something like a 5 kW generator, what it's going to say is that your normal production or your safe operating speed is 4 kW with a max startup of 5.5 kW. So that means that if you draw more than 5.5 kW on that 5 kW to start up an object, then it's going to trip the switch and it's not going to allow you to do that. I don't know what you're talking about there, Diana. I have no idea. So inverters convert battery power. Let me see. Lithium batteries have the highest capacity and the largest shelf life of all single-use or rechargeable batteries. I am converting over to where all of my flashlights, all of my radios, everything I have that is battery powered, I'm trying to get it where it's USB rechargeable. Because I can do one of two things. I can either use a solar recharging system or I can use a hand crank recharging system. But that gives me the ability to recharge no matter what. And even if you're going to get the small rechargeable trays with a AA or AAA batteries that are rechargeable, that's a suitable alternative as well. When teamed with an inverter and recharger, lead acid batteries are an excellent emergency power source. And so that's just, we'll take that from the books. And then rechargers that use natural energy include solar panels, wind turbines, human-powered machines. When I first got into this back during the Cuban Missile Crisis, we had, my next door neighbor was a civil defense block warden, and he built a cinder block fallout shelter. So you had to have an air purification system that sucked in the air from the outside, filtration system and everything else. And then the lights that we had inside were run off of a 12-volt battery. Well, the way we powered the 12-volt battery and the turbine or the fan that sucked the air in through the filters was we had basically a car generator that you powered by riding a bicycle. So somebody had to ride that bicycle 24 hours a day in order to provide enough electricity to keep the lights going and to keep the air filtration system going. So that's how long I've been doing this and they're still talking about it here. You can get those either hand crank or foot crank electric power generators if that's the way you want to go. It definitely give you a lot of exercise if you're worried about being confined in a small shelter for a long period of time. That will definitely get you some of the exercise that you need. So any questions on electric power in the book? Okay. Yeah, the Jackery 500 is a fantastic system. I think you made a wise choice there. I've heard a lot of good things about the EcoFlow Delta. I've also heard a lot of good comments about Blue Eddy. So all three of those systems I have heard nothing but good about. So I think any of those would be okay. Okay, so now let's talk about heating and cooling. So it says hypothermia is caused by allowing your body to get too cold. So I forwarded a video from Dr. Bones, Joe Alton, today, and he was talking about hypothermia and taking care of your body during a winter emergency. And So I hope everybody had a chance to take a look at that. But he's talking about number one, how to avoid hypothermia, number two, what it is, and then number three, how to treat it once you get it. So basically, hypothermia is when the core body temperature gets below 97.5 degrees. And that's when it starts shutting down first the capillaries in your fingertips and your toes. And that's how you end up with frostbite in that area. Then it'll close down the veins, trying to focus on the arterial work so that it's keeping your core, your internal portions of your body, the warmest. So he recommends that you have either something to keep you warm. And the best places, he said, to keep your body, to warm up your blood so that it keeps your core temperature warm, are on your jugular vein, in your armpit, because you have an artery in there as well, on the center core portion of your chest, or in your crotch area. So if you can keep something warm in those areas, that's going to do the best job of keeping your core temperatures at a good, safe, above 97.5 degree Fahrenheit. Well, that would be fantastic. Let me show you some alternatives here in just a minute as well. So keeping cool can be accomplished by limiting your activities, wetting yourself down, trying to get evaporation going on, except in high humidity areas. So if I live down at the Gulf Coast, southern Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, southern lower Alabama, Florida, maybe even South Carolina and the coastal area of North Carolina, in the heat of the summer, with the humidity that's there, that probably, having trying to use evaporation is probably not going to do you that much, unless it's cool water. But you can kind of judge that for yourselves. Now for keeping warm, let me see if there's anything else in here. Drinking cool liquids and establishing some basic air circulation in your home. So trying to open windows, doors, getting cross ventilation, getting a breeze to go through, seeing if you can't create some sort of a fan or air movement inside your area. So that might be, one of those limited things you want to use your power production for. For cold, he says emergency blankets are great. And those are those NASA silverish type blankets. They do great at reflecting your body heat back on you, but they're only good if they're effective, they're used correctly and effectively. Heat can be lost by disruption of your fuel source or failure of your heating unit. You must be prepared for either one. Carbon monoxide poisoning, of course, is going to be one of your major considerations. That, along with anytime you have an open flame, you're going to have a possibility of fire. So carbon monoxide, let's say that air has a density of, and we're going to talk relative density of 1, then carbon monoxide has a relative density of about 1.01 or 1.02. So, it's just barely denser, heavier than air. And so it will settle. And so if you're going to use a carbon monoxide detector, you're better off setting it at a lower elevation than you are a higher elevation. It's going to do you more good. If you can have a couple spread throughout the house, that's going to be your best thing to go. Isn't that the truth? Well, I've got a neighbor just put out on the neighborhood portal today that for the second time in 2 months, she's had the catalytic converter stolen off of her F-150. It's $1,000, and she has $1,000 deductible on her insurance. She's not a very happy camper at all. People are getting really brazen in what they're doing out there. It's unbelievable. Several methods exist to estimate the size of a secondary heater. To be honest with you, I don't think you're going to try to get a whole house heated. You're going to look for small contained areas that you want to heat. That's going to be the most effective way you can do that. And I've got some ideas I'll show you here in just a minute. Use them to establish a rough estimate of your heating needs. Trial and error is often needed to get the right size. Many backup heating options exist, including fireplaces. I think fireplaces are kind of on their way out. We had one in a house we built in 2000. Actually, it was 1998, and it had a gas fire heater, but we couldn't burn wood in it. And this house that we built in 2016, it doesn't have a fireplace. So I wish we did. Um, Masonry heaters, fuel burning stoves, and space heaters. Coal, wood, and pellet stoves have the epitome of disaster are the epitome of disaster preparedness because they reliably serve two vital needs, both heating and cooking, which is absolutely correct. And backup cooking can be accomplished with a fuel burning stove, fireplace, barbecue grill, microwave oven, camp stove, or solar oven. So that's basically what they say in the book. Now let's talk about some practical reality. One of the things I recommend is get yourself a grill. If you're allowed to have one where you are, get a grill, get some charcoal, get some either bricks or some rocks, some stones, river stones, put them in that in your grill and warm those up. Then transfer them into your metal bucket, bring them indoors and put them on the door to your oven, and you've got residual heat that'll probably keep you warm for about 4 to 6 hours. So that's one phenomenal way of doing some residual heat. Of course, you've always got candles. The more candles you have, the more it's going to produce power. I get these religious candles. They're good for about anywhere from 6 to 9 hours. And several of those will produce a little bit of heat. They'll produce a lot of light relative. Then you've got the 115-hour candles, and so these are phenomenal. This is a paraffin wax, and that'll burn for 115 hours. I like these Uko candles. So this is a 9-hour. In this one, I actually have a 12-hour beeswax candle. But, this heats up the top up here, so you can put something on top and kind of keep it semi-warm on top. You could kind of use it to warm up a small pot of soup or something like that to keep you warm, or even a hot cup of chocolate. It looks like I missed something from Gay. Let's see what I missed. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry that that's happening to you, Gay. Yeah, and Navigating the Nonsense has some really good videos out there talking about her transition from working homeowner to homeless to where she is now. And would you do me a favor and put your link up there so that people can go back and view some of those videos that you've got on those experiences and how you lived through it? Now, there's another one from Uko, and I keep these in the box because it's easier to store. It's easier to pile them on top of each other in the closet. But they have what's called the candelier. So this has got 3 candles on the inside. I have the paraffin ones in here. So the paraffin burn for 9 hours each. The beeswax burns for 12 hours. This, the 3 of these can warm up this top really well, and good enough for me to get my hot chocolate fix. So you've got this top that becomes a burning plate, if you will, so that you can warm up a pot of soup or water for coffee or water for hot chocolate, a can of soup, or anything like that. I think that's a fantastic piece of equipment. We have one for each room in our house. So some other things you might want to consider, just some bricks. Bring in 3 or 4 bricks into the house. Get yourself some sort of a silicone mat to put everything on. Get some tea light candles. And what did I do with it? And then get yourself a small grate like this. And you can put the grate. So if you have your bricks this way, and so you're using the corners, you're maximizing your space, then you can use those tea light candles underneath to warm up something to cook if necessary. Yeah, Lori says she got the Uco candles. Let me see here. Yes, that's one thing I do like about the 115-hour candles, the liquid paraffin, is they put out relatively good heat. They do put out relatively good light as well. Okay, so there's her. Copy that down. She's got some fantastic videos on some of the lessons that she learned being homeless. And I think they're very appropriate, especially in today's society, that you need to go back and take a look at. So some other ideas, get yourself some hand warmers. My daughter came over and picked up a handful of these. They're going to the Trail of Lights, and it's going to be like -15 wind chill. But I've got the 6-hour and the, no, this is, no, yeah, 6-hour and 12-hour, and made by Zippo. But we probably have 4 or 5 of each. And those are great. Those are the things you want to keep your core temperature nice and warm. So on your chest, in your armpit, or on your carotid artery, those types of places, to make sure you're keeping that core internal blood temperature above 97.5 degrees. Yes, you can. I'm recommending, however, that you put something that is non-heat transferable, something like a silicone pad underneath that aluminum pan, just as an extra safety measure, so you don't, because like I have a wooden table here, and I would hate to put any kinds of candles or anything like that directly on the table. I'm going to show you one here in just a minute. I definitely will not, but I have a silicone pad that I put it on. But let me see if there's anything else here before I show you that. Showed you that, and we talked about the tea light candles. We talked about the Zippos. We talked about that. Okay, so the next one is going to be, of course, the one that everybody knows about, the Mr. Buddy heater. So this is the middle size one. This is not the larger size one. I bought a paint tray because I saw a, what's his name? Riverside Homestead. Showed how he uses a paint tray, and then he bought a thermal fan, and he was able to add a fan to his. But because I have the middle size instead of the big one, I bought the fan, I bought the pan. They don't fit; they're too big because I have the middle size. But it was a good attempt. And but the Mr. Buddy heater is a fantastic thing to use in your home. At max temperature, turning up to the maximum amount of heat production, one 1-pound bottle of propane gives me about 9 hours. So you have to use that judiciously during the course of the day. So the other one that I've just recently bought, and I'm really, really happy with, this is the Instafire Vesta. So that's what it looks like in the box. And so what they say, and this is what it looks like on the insides, kind of a cutaway drawing. So it uses, and let me kind of readjust this here. I'll show you. Aim this down a little bit. So this is it, and here, and so you got over here, you've got this thermal fan unit. So you've got heat being produced down here at this area. You've got a can of safe heat there, and then you've got another can, then can number 3 over here at this end. And so you pull this little tray out, and that's what your sterno, or your, I'm sorry, not sterno, but your safe heats fit into this little tray. Now, when you pull that tray out, you can pull off this heating induction system. So it's got the induction coils so that it's maximizing the efficiency of the heat that's produced. And then there's your fan that's going to blow it over those coils into your room. And so now what you have is you have basically a 3 heat can cooking stove if you don't want to use it as a heater. And then once again, you can take this top part and put it back on. Pull this tray out once again and close it up. And now you have a space heater instead. So that's the Vesta Instafire space heater. The entire system is about $129. For the safe heat canisters, 24 of those, which is basically, let me see, was it 24? Maybe it's only 12. 12 of them for 20. Yeah, 12 cans for $20. And 12 cans will last you maximum heat using three for the 9-hour period. Will get you about 24 hours worth of heat for about $20. So that's not a bad deal at all. And 129 for the system itself. If you get it from My Patriot Supply, and I don't have a link for you, I've been trying to get a discount code for you now for a while. But if you get it from My Patriot Supply, you can even have that um, payment taken out over, I think it's 6 months, so interest free. So 129 for 6 months, interest free. It'd be about $20 a month if you need a good heating system like that. So that's basically all I have for show and tell, and basically all I have for the discussion around heating, air conditioning, and lighting. Do y'all have anything in particular that you want to add to the discussion? Let me get back up here. I'm sure I missed some fantastic comments. Let me see. Yeah, the beeswax candles can get very expensive, and thank you for that. That's so one of the things that I've done is the very thing you're talking about. I asked my wife and daughter for a candle making kit for my Christmas present. One of my Christmas presents arrived today. It's a bread making machine, and but I asked for a candle making kit as well. Because that we get down to nubs of candles where it's just not effective to burn them anymore. And so kind of like I was talking on that discussion last night with uh, Prepper Dog, one of the barter things that I've done is when I was working at the homeless shelter, you learn lots of great tips on survival from the homeless. And one of the things they do is they have something that they call I'm going to forget the name of it now. It's a tube system, tops tube system. So it's a tube, pre-rolled tube with a filter in it for a cigarette, and then it has this little stuffing machine. So what the homeless do is they'll walk the streets and they'll find cigarette butts on the street, and they'll squeeze the remaining tobacco from those cigarette butts into this tube system, and then push that into a new cigarette. Well, the same principle around candles. We're going to have all kinds of candles that are down to their nubs, so I would like to be able to take all those nubs and melt that paraffin and reconvert them back into good candles. So you and I are thinking along the exact same lines. Um, so are you talking, Dragon Slayer, are you talking about the Vesta heater that you like so much? Um, and I'm not looking forward to this cold spill. Yes, I really fear for power outages as well. Okay, not looking forward to this cold spell. I really fear power outages. I do have a solar system. Yep. I think everybody pretty much likes this. I was trying to get with My Patriot Supply, see if I couldn't get you a discount code. At my Tuesday morning meeting, there are six of us there this morning, and so five of them told me that they'd already gotten theirs in, and the sixth one said, "Now what's the link so I can buy one?" And I told them the name. I said, "Just do a search on Google, and because you can buy it directly from the company, you can buy it from My Patriot Supply, you can buy it from a couple places." And he says, "Well, should I get the 24 uh, cans of fuel for $100?" I said, "No, no." And so one of the other guys says, "Well, I'm going to Sam's today. Just give me $20. I'll get you a dozen for $20. There's no sense paying 100 for 2 dozen. Just it's crazy." So we got him taken care of. He ordered his system this morning, and he paid the extra to have it delivered this coming Friday, and then we're getting him 24 uh, cans of fuel um, for $40. So, he should be well taken care of by Friday. We've got so many things we need to talk about. The homeschooling and then teaching me how to use a good bread machine and everything else. So, gosh, I wish so many of you were so much closer than you are, just so we could sit down and have a cup of coffee and you could teach me so much. I could pick your brains. There are times in our life that it is what we make of it, and you made it into a learning experience. You made it into something that I think you should be able to go on the road and sell as far as a teaching experience as well. But you also, it reinforces the value system that you already had in place. And so, I think that there are times that we have challenges in our life and they're put there for a reason. My problem is wisdom or discernment. So I'm never sure when a challenge is put in front of me. Is it to prove that I have the perseverance of Job, or is it a sign saying, "Don't go this way, Lee"? You're going to be sorely disappointed. So, what I need is the wisdom or discernment to tell the difference between the two. Unlike people like you who can turn things like that into a gem. Well, I do know one thing, Lori. I do know that in the event of an apocalyptic world, those of us who have power and bread machines will have something of value. And so, that's where I'm looking at that. And I'm saying if I can make bread, if I can make candles, and if I have a solar powered freezer and I can make ice cubes, I should be able to survive. I would hope. Uh, Oh, I wanted to talk about those, Gay. Thank you. What a great reminder. I have a link. I even put it on here because I did want to talk about those. So here's a link to the discussion that Gay's talking about, which basically it's called a terracotta heater. And what it is you take flower pots and invert them. And so the smoke from tea lit candles, those little bitty candles, you get 50 of them for $1 at Walmart. But you take the heat from those little bitty candles and they go up and they heat this first pot. So it's producing residual heat. And then the smoke kind of goes up, goes into a second pot, heats that one up, produces residual heat, goes up into a third one. So now you've got this heat upon heat upon heat. And that way you've got a fantastic small space heater. And so that's what I've got there. That's the link there if y'all want to take a look at that. So thank you, Gay, for reminding me to talk about that. Great, 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 great. Where am I? Uh, lost it. Okay, here we go. There's where Gay reminded me. Yes, and so you and uh, navigating the nonsense have something kind of in common that might be worth the two of you discussing. No, what I did, Dragon Slayer, was I had a trivet. So I put a trivet uh, underneath the parchment paper, and that way it had probably, I'm going to say maybe half inch to 3/4 of an inch difference, so that it was lifted off of the base of the Dutch oven by about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, and that way I didn't want it coming in direct contact with the bottom of the Dutch oven. Um, but I mean, if it comes down to it, I can always do that again. That's no issue. Dutch ovens are phenomenal for making flatbread. I think it's the best thing on earth for making tortillas or naan or anything like that. Um, I can't roll them. I smoked them up until the time I was hospitalized. And a funny thing about being in ICU with MRSA pneumonia and on oxygen, it causes you to quit smoking, even a 50-year habit. Okay, so there's the response from Yeah, so the two of you probably have something in common that you can share with each other. Now, USMC 935, if I'm not mistaken, does that require a special flour and a special yeast, or can I use standard flour and standard yeast in a bread making machine? So Pat likes the Vesta space heater as well. So if you go to My Patriot Supply, right now, when you go to My Patriot Supply, the minute you land on their home page, it's their number one thing that they're selling on the left-hand side of the page, or at least it was an hour ago. And so that oh, look at that. Look at Lori. Oh, you're a champ and a half. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And I think they let you put it into 6 payments with no interest. Um, yeah, Dragon Slayer says the same thing. Great. So bread flour works better. Okay. Uh, bread making and cheese making. I don't, Susan, I am jealous. I would love to make cheese. I understand mozzarella is probably the easiest to make, but I certainly, I am afraid of making that step of trying to make cheese. I'm afraid I might poison myself. But we'll get together, and you can come here, and then you can be the cheese maker here in the neighborhood, and we can open our own store together. How's that? Oh, okay, that makes sense. There we go. So it's 4 payments, interest free for $30. So that's not a bad deal at all, as far as having a fantastic little heating system. Um, So let me get that link, and then what I can do is I can put it up here where everybody can see it. I'll tell you what. Let me get it saved here. Where's Lori's? I'm going to get this link that Lori has. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it. No, I can't. Okay. I will put a link in the show notes down below, so you can click on it. It should be clickable. And I'll try to do that as soon as this ends. So that for those of you interested in it, you can get that taken care of. Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting. That would be great to know. And then that would help me make better bread. I have a sourdough starter kit. I am convinced that I love sourdough, especially I spent 3 years at the language school in California, and so having San Francisco style sourdough bread, especially at Fisherman's Wharf in Monterey, California, that was just some of the best bread I've ever eaten in my life, and so I'm hooked on sourdough. So I do have sourdough starter. Okay. What else can we do tonight to save the world? Thank you all so much for being here. Just phenomenal and great conversation, and you've added so much to it. Do me a favor. Remember navigating the nonsense, and her experiences that she's turned into a set of videos. She's very how do you say that? Somebody who does not give herself the credit that is due. She is a phenomenal teacher. She has some phenomenal teachings about her experiences that she's been through, and how you too can survive those same bad experiences that she's been subjected to. And she does it in a very personable way. So I strongly recommend that you go watch her videos and learn some of the realities of the homelessness that we have in our country right now. Um, and then, she's talking about it has very high protein, Gluten. I watched a video today, and who was it that was talking about it? Was it Prepping by Faith? I don't remember. Somebody was talking about if you want really, really rich cake mix and you're going to use cake mix out of the box, mix in a box of Jello pudding, and that just really makes the most moist cake you can ever see in your life. Your son and grandson both were at Presidio Monterey. Wow. Yeah, I was there for basic Indonesian in 1971, basic Russian in 74, and advanced Russian in 77. So it's been quite a while. And let me see what Dragon Slayer has to say here. Pantry dough is the lowest, and then all-purpose, and then breads, and then okay. That's very interesting. I did not know that. Malibu. It was Prepping by Faith. Okay, I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure. Okay, anything else on your list to talk about this evening? We'll come back next week. Oh, do I have some fantastic, great news? So our fiction book club, this coming the Thursday after Thanksgiving, Thursday after Christmas, we're going to be talking about Volume 2, Surviving Home of the A American Survivalist Series. So that's our book that we'll be discussing Thursday, I think it's the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. And what a great book. And but anyhow, I got confirmation today that Monday, the 2nd of January at 8 o'clock, because I'm doing these Monday at 8 o'clock live interviews, we will be interviewing and talking with the author of this series. So we had Stephen C. Smith, the author of the Stonemont series. Now we're going to have Chris, and I don't know his last name, who is the author. He goes by A American is his pen name. We're going to have him on, and we'll be interviewing him about this series. He's got 11 books out right now, and the 12th one is due out here this week. So there'll be 12 books in this series, but we'll be interviewing him at 8 p.m. Monday, the 2nd of January. And I think that's just fantastic. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was at the Mormon LDS Provident Living Store Saturday picking up a can of Great Northern beans and a can of rice. And the guy who greeted me at the door was a 98 Golf Arabic. So an Arabic voice intercept operator. And you're talking about Farsi, which is Persian and Chinese. So they had, if you take a look at Monterey, California, the Russian department was the furthest northeast, then central north was the Chinese, and then other European and Latin American languages were far northwest. Then down at the bottom of the hill, you had the Arabic, Farsi, and the Southeast Asian and Asian languages other than Chinese. And I was in Nisei Hall for basic Indonesian, which is one of the ugly green 3-story buildings. And then we had the little bitty huts for Russian, for basic Russian and intermediate Russian. No, but I would love to learn how. We'll have to get you on here and have you show us that. Yes, I think the more we can do for ourselves, the better off we are going to be, and in so many different ways that it's going to be. Okay, so the book for book 2 that we'll be discussing on the 29th, it will be in the show notes in the description. So you've got the link for both books that we're currently doing book club wise. We've got this book is in that link in the description, and this book is in the link for the description. Then once we get close to the 29th, I'll be changing out from this to volume 3 because we'll be doing volume 3 discussion in January. I may be changing the times because we're conflicting the last Thursday of the month at 8 o'clock to discuss our book of Surviving Home, and the Survival Series is conflicting with Tool Man Tim, and he's 5 books ahead of us. So I told him that I would probably switch my time so that I can participate in that one and do this one at the same time. So let me see, Diane. Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Yeah, my daughter has no interest in foreign languages and no interest in the military at all either. Of course, she's making 3 times what I did. I had a master's in human resources management, and I was rated as a senior professional. As a matter of fact, I taught the certification course for HR certification, professional certification. And she has a bachelor's degree in HR and has the lower ranking of certification, just a professional in human resources. She's making 3 times what I did. So I want to see gender equality in pay. I want to see us get, those of us who have a higher education and more experience and higher certifications get paid equal to the people who have less. How's that? How's that for an HR thing? Okay, so here we are. Next week, we will be doing another 2 chapters of, unless you all want to take a break in between Christmas and New Year's. So the 2 chapters that we'll be discussing next week will be air and sleep. So air filtration and sleeping. Okay, so I don't see any objections to us getting together this time next week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock. We'll be talking about air and sleep. So thank you all for being here. Please remember to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other because togetherness is the key. And we still have to do Numbers, chapter 6. So that should be right here. And number 6. It says, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. And as we are in the season of Advent and Christmas, may the peace of the Lord be with you. Take care. Bye-bye.